Our next speaker is Vera Mulyani. Vera is the CEO and founder of Mars City Design, and her presentation today is called The Future Alchemists. Welcome, Vera.
Thank you so much, James. Thank you, everyone, for being here this morning in LA, and I'm sure something else somewhere else. And on Mars, it's a different location, different time as well. I hope one day that would happen, that we have to communicate with people living on Mars and having to convert the time despite the 20-minute delay of communication that at the moment. But I'm representing my company called Mars City Design and the nonprofit foundation, Mars City Foundation. So today I will start with a video that many of you may have watched before, but I just think that there are a lot of new members in Mars Society. Congratulations for everyone that is joining this wonderful platform. I will start this.
Moon, been there, done that. Get your ass to Mars. Quote, Buzz Aldrin. I'm Vera Mulyani, and I'm a Mars architect. Mars was calling me, and it made me believe that I should come to California. This whole West Coast is wired with innovation. Welcome to the Mojave Desert. This is our test field. The Mojave Desert is very important. It's the best place to design and test prototypes of 3D printed dwellings, which we will live in on Mars. The architecture that I wish we could see on Mars can communicate with its surroundings. Humans are going there. In California, we are surrounded by visionaries. It's really magical.
So that's how it started. That video was made about 3 or 4 years ago. So it was still very new for lay people who are not in the space industry to understand why are we even talking about Mars. And very simple storytelling and translation of all the space mission architecture into some everyday lifestyle that people will understand and would want to be curious and go discover more about the Mars and space science. That was the force that motivated me to start. And I will be in Dubai for this wonderful Citizen in Space Exploration Space Week at the Expo. And my slot will be Sunday, 17th of October in the afternoon at 12:30, if some of you are there. So really appreciate the talk that we had before with Mr. Omar. And yeah, it started about 6 years ago when I came out from architectural background. I worked for Rudy Ricciotti, one of the most incredible legendary architects in France. And we designed the Louvre Museum, the one in Paris. You could see behind the pyramid, actually, if you go. And ironically, this is built for the Arabic art as the museum underneath the ground. And we're building this flying carpet made of reflection, gold reflection. And during the day, you could see the sun coming in and it will beam out this beautiful golden light towards the whole patio of the Visconti passage. And this is a competition that we designed for a different Louvre museum outside Paris. At the time, it was for Lens. So coming up from this kind of, really imaginary, speculative moment of futuristic, but connected to the ancient culture of civilization, made me really interested in seeing the future for human civilization to really preserve what we know from Earth, but also being aware about our environment wherever we go, to not damage the way we know to do here in this planet. So, and I'm in California, in Los Angeles, as a faculty as well. I'm teaching this wonderful class. We learn about systems engineering and designing different space missions to go to Mars with today's technology, and also projecting, the whole architectural systems that is needed, not just for machines, but also for humans. And of course, this comes from the early childhood I had in Jakarta, looking up to the sky and see this red star, and only later I knew this was Mars. And fast forward to 6 years ago, when Elon Musk was projecting to send 100 million people by 2100. And I, as an architect with this background, was projecting, like, if that's how many people we are sending for Plan B on Earth, then we need to understand how to create the infrastructure for these humans to not just survive, but to thrive. And there was actually a lot of responses that are quite shocking in terms of like, but we're not even ready to survive. How could we thrive? And that's when the whole conversation starts. We just imagine that if we need to recreate this second home, what would it be like? Because if it's just running away from the disaster that could happen on Earth, then we have very slight chance to endure simply mentally. So the philosophy that have been inspiring for the Mars City design concept is the way we see the broken past, and how to seal it and make the original piece so unique, because of these broken past being resealed with something precious. And this is kintsugi, the very Japanese ancient ceramic culture. And that's how I also see the community that we have been growing through workshops, competitions, and inviting experts in the different fields to contribute to understand, if we are building a destination that will be for humans, we need to involve all kinds of expertise, not just engineering, not just architecture, not just chefs, maybe. So over the years, we have these workshops, and we built the different knowledge based on existing technology, but most importantly, being aware of how we survived as a civilization at the beginning of our existence. How would we combine that with the future settlement that we are projecting using today's technology? So all this work have been interesting for all these new generations, and we have been putting our effort out there just to spread the ideas and create exhibitions at the NASA Johnson Space Center at the time, 2019. And then this is where we're at today. I am launching this new design contest. This time is focusing for 8 to 15 years old high school students who can think about what it is future alchemy practice in our Mars mission, because the scenario is that, learning from the NASA program, there are a lot of activities that require a list of safety, and it's really interesting to learn about, for example, the food systems in space, the redundancy plans and strategy, and this is one of them. Basically, if we send 100 people to Mars and all of us have our luggage and our different tools that we bring, but after staying on Mars for a few days, we learned that the next resupply mission fails. What can we do with what we have? Do we have the right tools to bring in the ISRU, in-situ resource utilization, extraction? Can we already, are we using the remaining ingredients that we brought from our previous missions? So it affects the entire planning that we design from the beginning. And the idea of, alchemy is when you Google it, there are not that many information about it, because it's almost like a practice of chemistry and transformation of objects. And it's a very ancient practice that a lot of philosophers, actually the reference is Antoine Lavoisier from 1700, at mid 1700 to late 1700, who's talking about transformation. And what's interesting is that after digging a little bit further, I discovered that the philosophy that Lavoisier used was not new at the time. And maybe because the history book didn't consider looking for further reference, we didn't know that. So the first philosophy about alchemy, nothing is ever gotten out of nothing. A thing never returns to nothing, but all things after disruption go back to the first body of matter, was written in a poem book by Lucretius, who was alive 99 BC to 55 BC. Lucretius is a Roman poet and philosopher who wrote De Rerum Natura, on the nature of things. And another interesting thing is that this reference went even farther back to ancient Greek philosopher Epicurus, that was emphasizing the goal of a happy and content life, but by observing nature, and founded 307 BC. He was the one coming up with the concept of 3 different molecules that nature has that makes it alive: gas, liquid, solid, and all of us are made of atom. And the atom that consist of movement and density and our behavior, depending on, are we a receiver of what kind of atom? And we're like the original form, like, for example, if our original form is to produce fire, maybe our atom will change, but when we are reincarnated into a new life, we may be a fir tree, for example. So this is what molecular theory is today. So it's all back to 300 BC. And it's really interesting to me to understand this kind of practice that is no longer very common, because this is how we can understand out-of-the-box solutions to regenerative life support systems, for example, like for the long-term mission to Mars. So most of you may be more familiar with this kind of illustration from Star Wars, the junkyard. I was just imagining, you know, what would happen at the worst case. Are we creative enough? I mean, you guys are familiar with this for sure, and I can hear the chuckle. This was Starship SN8, I believe, that are in Boca Chica. But a lot of, I think, dystopian scenario sci-fi have, despite it being dystopian, inspired a lot of young people to really find the motivation to discover, explore space science, ironically. But our goal here is to imagine something more hopeful. What can we do when we arrive on Mars and the next missions fail? What can we fish along the way, maybe with the space debris? And what can we extract from the local resources, combining with what we're carrying? And the deliverables would be the scenario, and you can imagine as wild as you want, as a speculative, futuristic alchemy solution. So this is just an example of one of the projects that was submitted in 2018, sorry. It was combined with the work of virtual reality, but I found this project very interesting. It was very abstract, and it's very conceptual still, but this is physically, you know, demonstrated that with the correct math, you're able to create a certain architecture, landscape environment that is imagined. So this is a very early work that they create. And in the architectural practice, we always start with, I mean, I don't know other people, but most of our community, we learn about the context first, and then understanding the demand, practical demand, and mental health, psychology needs as a priority, because it's human-centered design of solutions to engineering and technology. So it's really interesting to witness, you know, how we can improve technology by creating new, not problems, but challenges, because we're creative. And that's the dynamic that we have been having on our platform. Oh, before I play this, actually, with what we're doing, we have imagined the life that the second generation in scenario of surviving on Mars and start thriving. We have created this Martian Dispatches, an audiobook that you can purchase on our website, Mars City Design shop. So with that, we just imagine, you know, if it was not for these alchemists, future alchemists, to give us a solution when there is issues with our missions on arrival, then these people would not be alive. And we're going to listen to some excerpts of their dispatches. This is sent from Mars, from the second generation that have been living in a Mars city.
Solvenaris, Virgo 20th, Sol 19098, 1900 MTC, Indira Hasim, Terra Simaria. I'm sitting in the Mangala hot spring at this second. People also call it Esprit de Simarie. It's a resort and spa that sits at the lips of the Madame Vallis in the Gusev crater, built right on top of a hot spring that Martian explorers found a long time ago. My mom says it's a well-deserved break after all the studying I've been up to, but to me, it's just bliss. Let me share with you a little background about the name. Mangala is Earthling Sanskrit name for the red planet, and Esprit de Simarie, which is French, it means spirit of Simaria. First, Simaria is the region we're in, Simaria Terra, and the name refers to our really great grandparents who lived around the Crimean Sea on Earth thousands of years ago. Apparently, they were pretty good at sailing and probably worshipped the sun. Second, Spirit is actually a play on words. About a century and a half ago, the Spirit rover was sent to Mars, and this is where it landed.
Sol Jovis, Pisces third, Sol 18,700, 2,000 MTC, Santino Davenport, Arcadia, Planitia. Art thou pale for weariness of climbing heaven and gazing on the earth, wandering companionless among the stars that have a different birth, and ever changing like a joyless eye that finds no object worth its constancy? Wow, just look at that. That sight never fails to inspire. From where I'm sitting right now, I got a perfect view of Phobos and Deimos. I've been looking up at our twin moons for longer than I can remember. But tonight, something about the way they're sitting in the sky feels different. It's like they're here to remind me about all the things I've ever done and what's left to be done. That bit of verse there, I always was intrigued by it. You see, it was an ode to the moon itself, which the poet, Mr. Shelley, emphasized as being solitary, alone in its beauty and splendor. But here on Mars, our two moons have always been there to keep each other company, even when their orbits mean one has to occupy the sky without the other. They always catch up to each other eventually. I look forward to gazing upon them as I begin a new chapter in the long saga that is my life. I don't know if it'll be the last or just another addition to what is already a long and meandering tale. But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Unlike the moons in the sky above, life is unpredictable. What's here today could be gone tomorrow, never to come back. But listen to me ramble on like an old man. I suppose if I want people to understand what's going on with me here, I better let them in on a few things first. First off, name's Davenport, Santino Davenport, a descendant of the Asheville Davenports. Man, it's been so long since my lineage mattered that it feels like another life entirely. But as it is, it was merely a previous chapter. And boy, wasn't it an interesting one. I tell you, whoever came up with "May you live in interesting times," they sure understood a thing or two. It was intended as a curse, you know. There's nothing more peaceful in life than boredom, folks. For things to get interesting, you need change. You need movement. And for them to really get interesting, you need chaos. But you get the point. Like a select number of people who are still around today, My story began on Earth, the pale blue dot. You can generally find that too when you look up in the night sky. It always looks so peaceful up there, just like the rest of the heavens. But every time I find it, I'm reminded of just how little peace there was to be had when I was there. The times, they were different back then. The world seemed to be turning faster and faster, threatening to spin out of control. The people, they were always moving with such a purpose. It was like they feared stopping because they knew they'd die.
All right, so those are the two excerpts of the Martian Dispatches. I hope you enjoyed the talk, and I'm open for questions.
Hi Vera, it was a fantastic presentation. So we have a few questions for you. And the first question is from MK Buri. What parameters would you recommend for choosing the initial city habitation site, considering the ease of digging into the rocks, abundance of minerals, ease of making soil, etc.?
Yes, so over the past 6 years, out of accumulation of ideas from the Mars City Design participants, we realized that the best negotiation for human comfort and safety would be the ones that are in between subsurface and above the surface. So it's mostly integrated into the edge of the cliffs. So really interesting project by Sylvia Truman, who submitted the Mars Olympia on 2019. You can find that video on YouTube for the Mars City Design Challenge 2019 by Sylvia Truman. It's really interesting because it makes us understand what kind of infrastructure we need to set, right? So thank you for that question. I think mostly for us to not just survive, but endure for the successful mission, but also settlement, we need to understand the human body. We need to understand the needs, mental health that needs some lights, circadian rhythm, of course, all other urgent matter like oxygen and balance for food and vitamins, supplement, microgravity, exercise. But we could also design with this kind of end result image, and going back to where we're at today, building towards that. So each step is not going to be useless.
Okay, let's try something a little different for our next question. We actually have a group of people in AltSpace VR that are watching our convention right now, and I'm gonna try to see if we can get a question from them. So Jay, can you hear us?
I'm speaking through Jay's mic here on AltSpace. Can you hear me okay?
We can, you're coming through loud and clear.
Fantastic. Actually, my question was somewhat related. I was just curious about seeing designs that are based around the use of the existing regolith to go underground, and as you mentioned, around cliffs and such, but also lava tubes. It seems such an interesting possibility to use the existing protective quality of a lava tube to actually maybe put an inflatable habitat into relatively easily, but also, I mean, certainly to bring in your design inspiration, you know, ways to channel that light through the top, you know, is so important. So beautiful work. Thank you.
Thank you. Was that a question or?
Just curious to hear about other designs of that area, or to see anything you could show us by any means. I'm not sure if I've seen anything yet.
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of videos of the projects. If you go to YouTube and find Mars City Design, we basically show some of the winners' videos in there. And the interesting thing about, you know, different solutions is that there's not just one solution for one solution, meaning if you're thinking about safety from the cosmic radiation, solar radiation, and meteorite impacts, and therefore we have to go to underground solution, what we could also do is to bring the ground up. We're learning from the dune formation, for example, and that's one example how we can make sure that there's balance in every response. So not just one response that will satisfy one need of the human aspects.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for this. Thank you, Jay.
Okay, Sagar, you want to ask another question from the Q&A panel?
Yes, James. We have a question from James Melton. He's asking, will any of your designs include a possible construction by robots and then completion by humans upon their arrival at Mars?
Yes, I think most of you have these questions, but you already know a lot about Mars architecture. Maybe, learning from Mr. Zubrin's lead for sure. I think the contribution that we have here at the Mars City Design is to really have some kind of speculative response to the data we have and understanding what would be possible, because everyone is already trying to solve the initial issues, but we could probably contribute the big leap, the innovation side, by suggesting completely extreme version of the different solutions. So yes, we are imagining to send robots, even to send our avatars before sending real humans, because really I don't think we're ready to have the infrastructure to receive human. Like, just imagine sending people to the moon, and when they come back, we are all here there are hundreds of people around the world that are working on the mission, and they're welcoming this crew, taking them out from the vessel. But when humans arrive on Mars, who are gonna welcome us, right? And you have to create the infrastructure to welcome the damaged body to rehab first, and then when that stage happen, you get out, it's still a new environment. So I think it's important to be ready. And if we send humans and then hopefully not, but if the mission fails and people die, I'm afraid that it's already hard to have this mission, this topic, to be supported by the society, because a lot of people are looking at our immediate issues, urgent issues on Earth. So if on top of that we're sending humans prematurely, the consequences is that it will have to wait for a long time again for us to be able to focus on the project. So sorry, that's a long answer, but
No, that was wonderful. Thank you, Vera. I think we have time for one more quick question, Sagar.
Yeah, so the next question is from Michael. He's asking, how much do we need to reinvent versus how much can we reuse from what we have learned on Earth?
Yeah, the good thing about Mars is it starts with a clean slate, and I think it will be really exciting to see the future Alchemists results of the challenge from the high school kids around the world. So I invite you to register And I know that James wants to keep this completely in track. So I thank you for all the questions. I will answer here on a Q&A box, and I hope to see you somewhere. Say hello when we cross paths in different conferences, maybe, perhaps in Dubai. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vera. Thank you very much. And, we really appreciate you participating in our event today.
Thank you. Really appreciate your invitation too.
Awesome.
Good luck.
Thank you.